Hi everybody, Sarah here from Living Life in Full Spectrum on this lovely, albeit cold, Saturday night. It's a beautiful full moon outside, so I know a lot of you are out investigating and you're watching this after the fact, so I hope if you are out investigating, I hope you've had a really good night investigating, and yeah, I hope that full moon works for you. So you will notice I have my friend sitting behind me, and this is Toby. Toby is what we would call one of the most haunted paintings in the world, and he is the crying boy. So I'm very lucky. This is not my office, this is actually my brother's office, but I'm very lucky that we are in possession of one of these paintings. Now, the myth or the urban legend around this painting is that anyone that will hang this in their house, basically their house catches on fire and burns down. So I'm going to tell you the story of Toby and why you don't need to worry about hanging in your house, because I don't think he's going to burn down your house. I think this is all a bit of an urban legend. So I'm going to tell you the story of Toby. So this all started in around 1985 in London. So there was a series of paintings. Hi, Andrew. There was a series of paintings which were called the Crying Boy series, and they were from a man called Bruno Amadeo, and he was in Venice, and he basically made these paintings as a way to represent the children that were orphaned in World War II. So there were around 65 different versions of this painting made, and they all had different names. So for example, this boy is called Toby. There's others with sort of two children. There's others with a crying girl. There's others with different looking crying boys. So there was around 65 different versions of this crying boy painting. So a manufacturer in London actually got hold of this. Hi, Kelly. And they reproduced certain of the prints, mainly about, I think, 3 or 4, and they made around 50,000 copies of this painting, and they made it on very, very cheap material because it was mass production, and it was made on this sort of very, very cheap compressed board. So I can feel that this, yeah, is sort of a cheap compressed board. So in 1985, basically, lots of houses catch fire. That's what happens, unfortunately. And one of the things that they actually noticed was that in these fires, you'd have, you know, sort of a smouldering mess, but what they would actually find was that this painting seemed to survive intact. It wasn't burnt. It was, you know, basically as it was. It might have a bit of ash on it, but it seemed to survive the fire. So the Sun newspaper got a hold of this, and on September 4th, 1985, they actually ran sort of the story, and it created a little bit of a mass hysteria. And basically, the story went into an interviewed a firefighter called Peter Paul, and he apparently was related to one of the victims, and he said that he had personally attended around 50 houses that had burnt down and this painting had survived. So they ran an article, which you can kind of see here, called The Blazing Curse of the Crying Boy, and basically went to the lengths, and it would interview the different people, and they would basically say, oh, you know, things didn't go wrong until we got this painting, and then we got this painting and my house burnt down. And so over the next few months, they basically ran a few different stories, interviewing different people that had lost everything, but for some reason this painting survived. So why did the painting survive? So the painting survived because of this compressed board that they used. Basically, it's fire retardant, okay? So there's nothing paranormal there. It's just the material that was used. It takes a really long time for this to burn. So after a really, you know, a few months of this mass hysteria, the Sun newspaper thought, look, we'll come to the rescue. And they asked everybody to write in and say, okay, send me your painting or come to this location. And they basically organised this massive big bonfire where everyone that could get rid of these paintings and put it on a really big bonfire. Hi, Mum and Jessie. So they organised this big bonfire. They burnt the paintings eventually, but it took a really, really long time. So where did this myth come from? So there is a bit of a story behind it, of course. Now, one of the things that you find with these stories is there's about a few different versions, and there's always slight details that are different, and that's always a really good sign that, you know, it's made up. So the story with this one is that it's actually supposed to be a painting of a young boy who was an orphan boy who was a mute, and he was painted by a guy, and I apologise if I get this wrong, called Franchot Seville in France. Now there's a couple of different versions of the story. Some say that Mr. Seville adopted this child, and some say that he was just a local boy. So he was a mute, so he couldn't speak, and he was an orphan. And the priest, the local priest, says that his name was Don Benillo. Now, the priest also had a nickname for this little boy, and he said that his name was Diablo, which means devil. There was also a girl painting. Hey, yes, there was. There was a few different versions of the crying boy made, and there was actually a girl version, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. Thanks, Craig. So the priest, yeah, his name was Don Benillo, and the priest nicknamed him Diablo because he was a mischievous little boy. So apparently the reason that he was orphaned was that his parents died in a fire, of course. You have to have that fire reference, okay? So his parents died in a fire. Wherever he went, he would get into mischief, and fires seemed to break out everywhere he went. So another sort of weird connection there. Now, Mr. Seville, who apparently painted the picture of him, hi Adam, how you going? One day his studio burnt to the ground and he lost everything. He accused the young boy of starting the fire, and apparently the boy was innocent and heartbroken and ran away. No one heard from this boy for many, many years, and it wasn't until 1975, I think it was, that apparently there was a car accident outside of Barcelona, and the car sort of exploded and was engulfed in flames, and all that survived was a driver's license, and the driver's license had the name Don Benillo, who was the name of the child. And so it was thought that then forever the painting was cursed with the spirit of this boy. And so it didn't matter that, you know, there were 50,000 copies of it in production. It was supposed to be cursed. So as I've said, for those that have just joined us, we know that this painting was made of this special compressed board, and the compressed board basically is fire retardant. So it's not paranormal. If you put it up in your house isn't going to burn down. I've had a lot of stories, a lot of people contact me about these paintings, and their aunt or grandmother or some relative have had them in their house and they've noticed that a fire has broken out. I would put that down to coincidence. Paintings are definitely not haunted. Now, there were some, I guess, other myths out there as to how you could counteract the curse. So a lot of people thought that just by giving the painting away to somebody, you couldn't sell it, you had to give it away to somebody. They thought that if you gave it away, the curse would be lifted and would obviously go to the next person. Another way to, I guess, avoid the curse was to hang a picture of the crying girl painting, which Craig mentioned, and apparently if you hung the crying girl next to the crying boy, I guess he had a companion or for whatever reason, and that would also lift the curse. So that's the myth of the crying boy painting, and sorry guys, it's debunked. It's not true. There is no historical information to suggest that Don Benillo even existed. This Franchot Seville, who was supposedly the person that painted this painting, that name is actually a pseudonym or an alias for Bruno Amadillo, who was the original painter, who I said Bruno Amadillo painted 65 versions of the Crying Children series, and that was a way for him to recognise all of the orphan children that were abandoned during World War II. So I'd love to hear from you guys if you guys have any stories about the crying boy. I'd love to hear all your different stories, and yeah, send them in. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.